All right, the thing says we're live. We'll see if we are. Hey, everybody. Hello, Pat. Pat's already in here. If you guys can hear me, if the volume in the video, etc., is working, just let me know in the comments section. That way I can move on, because I never know. All right. Hello, everybody. Welcome. Come on in here. Everybody pile in. Ethan's here. Hi. You guys type in where you are and etc. Come in, get in the comment section, say hello, be friendly, be neighborly, say howdy, type where you are, etc. As soon as somebody tells me that the audio and the video are okay, we'll get moving. Sometimes it takes longer than other times, but I don't like to get into stuff and then find out that I'm sitting here talking and my lips are moving and nobody's hearing what I'm saying. So I'm waiting on you. All looks good. All right, Don. All right, so we'll go ahead and do the box thing and we'll get moving. All right, a bunch of messages came in all at once. All right, so we got Alaska in the house, got Montana here, we got Texas represented. From the blue skies of Montana, we have War Dog Heim. Glad to see you guys. Glad you could be here. It's been a little while since I've done a live. Things have been getting better as far as technology-wise. And so it looks like, hello, Bob. Bob's down in Fredericksburg. It looks like we're going to be getting our batteries maybe next week for the solar panel system. I got to stop saying the solar system because my wife makes fun of me. But in the meantime, other things have been going pretty well. And today, our friend Chuck that watches here from Georgia sent me some hand tools. That's great to get. I'm glad to have those. Chuck, if you're watching this, even if you're a future person, thank you for the package. It arrived today in good shape. I'm glad to get it. And it was like some really, really nice Swiss chisels. And so I'm looking forward to using those. And so things have been going good. It looks like we got the generator fixed. My brother here, Don, who's here, helped me get the generator fixed. So the generator is working. Looks like we're going to get batteries for the solar panel. I ordered the cabling, so to recable all the batteries for the solar panel system. We'll see. We'll see. In a week or two, hopefully, I'll be able to do, like last week, I was able to do 2 uploaded shows that were not live because I had enough power to be able to sit on the computer for 5 hours and do editing or do whatever I needed to do. And so the more I can do of that, if I can get more videos up here, I want to do some preparedness videos. I want to do those type of things. And I want to do some fitness videos for my fitness channel. Then hopefully things are going to start rocking and rolling. In the meantime, we've had quite a few subscriptions are up. We were up to 1,947 when this show started. Trying to hit 2,000 by the end of the year. It's going to take some help. So if you would, according to the statistics, to the YouTube people, 49% of you watching this, either now or in the future, are not subscribed. We only need like 50, I'm not good at math, 53 more subscriptions and we're going to hit 2,000. It's a big hallmark. Supposedly, I don't know, it's supposed to help YouTube decide to start sending more traffic your way, which just makes things start to grow. So if you're watching this video, hit the like button. Make sure you hit the like button. Go to YouTube and subscribe. If you're watching this, if you're a future person, future people are people that are going to be watching this in the future. And they tell you, YouTube tells you, make sure you greet the future people. Greetings, future people. That means you're not watching this live. You're watching this maybe tomorrow or the next day. Greetings to you. Hit the like button. Please subscribe. Hit the bell icon so that you get notifications. So when I go live like this, you can pop in here. You can type in the comment section where you're watching from and say howdy and whatnot, and then we can get moving. Hello, Sandy. Good to see you. All right, everybody else is out there. Get in the comment section, say hi. If you have a question, comment, something you want to talk about. We've done 2 videos and a little mini series that I'm doing. That was, it was kind of like a last minute thought. I was walking around and I do a lot of walking, and I was thinking about, I had just watched the chess series, Queen's Gambit, Watched a couple other things. I just got done reading Bix Beiderbecke book, 1929, which I highly recommend, by Frederick Turner. I've talked about that on here. And I've been a student of people who are geniuses. And it started to occur to me that with what was going on in the world, that there was a connection, or there could be a connection, between the ability to see things, like in chess, where they're able to see several moves ahead, and to see pattern recognition, which I did a whole video back in March or April or May about pattern recognition. Hello, Diane. Good to see you. Hello, Daniel's here. And the ability to see what's going on in civilization and be able to get to the point. I do how to think videos. I do videos where I'm showing you patterns of things that are going on. That's the way my mind works. It seems that as a people, Americans in general don't have the ability to recognize patterns. For example, they will sit in front of a TV for 8 hours a day. And every 4 to 12 minutes, a commercial will come on trying to sell them a pharmaceutical. And they'll watch that, and at the end of that commercial, it'll tell them 97 bad things that can happen if you take that drug. The next commercial that comes on is a lawyer trying to get you to sue for the commercials you were watching a year ago, and you got those drugs, and now you got anal warts, or your heart fell out, or something like that. You got a neck bone break. Something happened. Something broke loose in your body. And now they want you to sue after they told you before that you should buy it because it was a magic drug. It's going to fix you all up. After doing this for years and years and years, people have not been able to see the pattern. And so, with what's going on in the world today, with things we won't mention, they come out and they say, we got a magic thing we just made. It's never been made before. We did it super lickety-split fast. You guys get on in here, roll up your sleeve. And people are like, okay. They don't have the ability to see pattern recognition. I'm not telling anybody what to do. I don't do that. I'm not an expert. I'm not a doctor. I don't give people advice. I'm just saying we need to begin to develop the ability to see patterns. We talked a little bit about civilization, how difficult, in the last episode of this little 3-part series, how difficult is civilization. It is tremendously difficult. Specifically, we mentioned the Russian Empire and how the Russian Empire basically began because the people who lived in that area, the Rus, or however you want to call them, were constantly being invaded. They were attacked by the Mongols. They were attacked by the Turks. They were attacked by the Tartars. They were constantly being attacked, and they finally came together, and it was a brutal time. There was not a whole lot of progressivism. Progressivism didn't work in that situation. People had to be brutal. Civilization was brutal, but they developed one of the most advanced empires and civilizations in the history of the world, and it lasted 1,000 years. And as I mentioned in the last part, women and minorities were very well represented. We can name them. I challenged everybody on the last show to name me one Soviet-era woman that they know the name of. I'm surprised no one came up with Olga Korbut, but nobody did. And I gave people minutes to do it, and they couldn't do it. People even later went on Google and weren't able to really come up with much. And so my whole point in saying that is that you can identify patterns. This has happened in Russia. It happened in Europe. It happened in France. And generally the pattern is this. Civilization gets built, and it's not the greatest thing in the world watching it happen. It's bad things and wars and kings and knights and all that kind of stuff. And it's bloody, and it's probably unfair. And there's things like serfdom and jails and all those kind of things. And it's bad, but it begins to get better and better through time. And it takes a long time. Eventually, it's like one of those games you get on the computer, and they start building like, bridges and stuff. And stuff gets built, and that stuff is hard. It's not easy. Eventually, a generation rises up that knows not Joseph or knows not Moses. And that generation gets sent to some highfalutin college because the parents are rich. Why are the parents rich? The parents are rich because of civilization. In civilization, there are rich people. And even and as it progresses, even the poor people get better and better and better. They're still poor people. Jesus said they were always going to be around. But even their lot gets better and better and better. Happened in Russia. The serfs were freed in Russia before the American Civil War. And so things were getting better. And then these people got sent, they got a lot of money. They sent their children to Europe to go learn from Engels and Marx. And they came back and they said, let's just burn everything down. Let's just start over. Let's do a great reset. Let's do all this stuff over again because it's easy. Anybody can build a bridge. Here's all we have to do. Here's how they think. All we have to do is if everybody puts in $5, we can build us a bridge. That's not the way it works. And it will never work that way. And so we have a advanced civilization that is not the best. And it's not, I'm not saying it's not the best in the world. It is not perfect. There are tragedies. Some people don't get iPhone 12. Sometimes there's bad things that happen. But over time, it tends to take care of more and more people. It's not easy to feed 7 billion people. That's not easy. Brandon says, Mike, all right. It's Michael, but we'll keep going. Just wanted to stop in and say what's up from Louisville, Kentucky, my brother. All right. Hoping you get that part in your movie. Me too. Seems like you put in a lot of work to get it. You're right, Brandon. Greetings to you too. And I hope I get the part of the movie. We're going to talk about that a little bit more. All right, Chuck, I got your box today. I talked about it earlier in the show. So if you happen to go back and watch it, I gave you a big thank you. I got it. Everything came in good for using the tools. Thank you for that. It was a great blessing. So would you say that poor is relative? Absolutely, poor is relative. And I talk about that in my book, Surviving Off-Grid. Let me do a quick little ad. A lot of the philosophies that you see in this book were developed, in this show were developed in this book, Surviving Off-Grid by Michael Bunker. And in this book, I talk about the fact that a lot of people, specifically in America, didn't even know they were poor. The word poor doesn't mean what it used to mean. The word poor used to just mean that you couldn't afford to eat. You couldn't afford to live, right? Somebody else had to like bring you in or bring you some food. That stopped during the Industrial Revolution. During the Industrial Revolution, the marketers realized they could not sell you things unless you thought if you didn't have them, you were poor. So people like my grandmother, they didn't realize they were poor. They didn't know they were poor. They had started off just like this is the whole point of this whole thing. Civilization is a thing like this. And they had started off like a lot of people did. And when you go back earlier in America, people grew their own food. They had gardens. They had farms. They traded. They bartered. And they made do. They sewed their own dresses out of flour sacks. You know, they picked cotton. My aunts and uncles and grandparents picked cotton. And they did what they had to do to get by. In the Depression, before the Depression, after the Depression, all that kind of stuff. They didn't think they were poor. They knew they weren't rich, but they had what they need. As the Bible says, having food and raiment, they would be satisfied, be comforted, be happy. And so they did what they had to do. Well, then the marketers came out, and you can find this in books like The Jungle is one, and you can read about this kind of stuff in books. They hide it in books. And what they did is they said, well, people don't use toothpaste. It's not that they didn't brush their teeth, but they used like baking powder, which now we've all gone back to charcoal. They use things like that. And then they said, but we want to sell it to them in a tube. How do we do it? Well, we tell them if they're still using baking powder, they're poor. If they don't buy all of their products at the store, if they don't come in a package, then they're poor. So the word poor is very relative, and it's used to market, to convince people that they need to have more and more and more things. So what happens is you sacrifice freedom, you sacrifice all of these things that you already have in order to plug in. You get plugged into the system. Debt increases. Let me just use this as an example. You own a small farm in Missouri in 1945. You grow your own food. You have some cattle. You sell some milk at the store. You sell some eggs at the store. You have a garden, and you are a sustenance farmer, which means you provide the sustenance for your family. Perhaps you even grow a little bit of cotton. Or you have some sheep. You make wool. You make yarn. You make clothes. And when you can, you barter and trade. You sell a few things. You get a little bit of money. You buy some clothes. You buy some shoes. Some people only got shoes in winter. Not my parents particularly, I don't know if that's true or not, but that age group, you only got shoes in the winter. So yeah, you would say those are poor people, but you've been taught to say that. They didn't need them. They made it, and they made do, and all of those things. And because of that, they were not only free, but they were able to mobilize in times of national emergency. They were able to mobilize in times of war. But just like in Russia, just like in France, just like in Hungary, just like in Cambodia, there's always a group of people, because their parents were wealthy, who decide, hey, we don't have to do anything. We can skip all those steps. What we're going to do is take a bulldozer to the entire thing. We're going to lay it waste. We're going to go back 3,000, 4,000 years, and we're just going to say, hey, everybody give me $5 and we can build a bridge. And we're all going to own it. Everybody chip in a little bit. In the meantime, you no longer have a job. You no longer have money. You have no longer ability to produce anything because they took it all. I was reading a book, and I'm going to say his name wrong. But I apologize to everybody, because every time I'm on here, I list 3 or 4 books that I'm reading, and then everybody's like, oh, okay, I got to go get another book. There's a writer who writes historical fiction, and I'm going to say his name, Amor Towles, Towles. He wrote a book in like 2012 called Rules of Civility, which I read, which was a 1920s era book. And then he wrote a book, and I think came out in 2016, called A Gentleman in Moscow. I'm reading it right now. And basically it's about an aristocrat who was part of the aristocratic Russian system. And then the revolution happened. He was in France in 1918, and he went back to Russia to get his mom out because they were being killed by the Bolsheviks. And so he got his mom out, and he was living in the Metropole Hotel in Moscow, and he was brought in as an inveterate aristocrat. Because he was a hero in a previous war, they didn't feel like they could just execute him, and so they ordered him to be on house arrest in the Metropole Hotel for the rest of his life. The reason I'm bringing this story up is it not only goes through a lot of the Russian history. Amor Towles, the guy who wrote it, is not a flaming conservative guy. He's not. He's friends with Barack Obama. He's friends with Oprah and people like that. All right, this is not a conservative fellow. And in the book, there's a footnote in part of the book where there's a woman who's traveling across Russia, and this was during the 30s. And 30 million people were starving to death in the Ukraine. And it actually tells the truth about it, is that they would block out the windows of the train so you didn't see all the dead people. You didn't see there were signs if you happen to get off the train in a town saying not to eat your children. This was one of the greatest civilizations in the history of the world. And they had a revolution in 1917. By 1933, they had to put signs up that said, "Don't eat your children. It's barbaric." And so that's the thing. And so here's the thing. It says it's a footnote in there. And it said people were dying by the millions. And American liberal writers would go over there and they would give them a tour where they didn't get to see anything. And they would like, oh, this whole Ukrainian starvation thing is just overblown, just like they're doing today, right? They covered everything up. And so they would block out the windows in the train when you were going across the country so that the heaps of bodies that people were bringing out of the town and piling up, you wouldn't see those things. And so this is what happens. What are my thoughts on the pandemic of addiction going on in the world today? Sorry to call you Mike. That's okay. It doesn't bother me. It's just other people get irritated because they know it's not what I go with. As a recovering addict, people think that COVID is killing people. You're right. Addiction is probably one of the biggest killers, and a lot of it there's so much to it. There's just no way to unravel it. I don't think that. Hello, Alex. Good to see you, brother. Hadn't seen you in a long time, brother. Glad you could be here. And I don't know if there's any easy answers. I can just tell you this: in the 1880s, in the 1870s, in the 1860s, you could buy laudanum, you could buy cocaine, you could buy heroin, and people did. And we did not have the addiction problems. We didn't have people just flipping over dead because there was fentanyl or some toxin or some. And so we got a bigger problem. And that is that there's warfare being waged on many different levels. I just got done watching, I'd already watched Narcos, the Colombian series, and I just watched Narcos Mexico. There's warfare that's going on that needs to be dealt with. I think the war on drugs has been a great failure. There's got to be other options. I don't want to take over this show because I have another topic, but there's a lot to it. But you're right. There are way more people that are dying from addiction and all of those things than some of the other problems they're bringing up. Is being obese a sin? Absolutely. Obesity and drunkenness are both immoderation. And they're both sins, and they're both mentioned as sins in the scriptures. And they are the same sin. And so I do have a problem with the focus on one particular sin. Immoderation is wrong in any sense. It's a sin. And so I have a huge problem with people who are obese and focus on drunkenness. I think if you're obese, I'm sorry that you're that way. I was that way less than a year ago, morbidly obese. Deal with that. That's your sin. You have no business talking to anybody else about theirs because it's not only a sin, it's not a private one, it's out in public. And you're doing it in front of everybody. I love people. I was that way less than a year ago. I have numerous friends, family, and everything, people I love dearly. It's just that you have to realize it's no different than drunkenness. And if you wouldn't be drunk walking around town besmirching the name of Christ, then you need to realize it's the same sin. It's just a different immoderation. All right. Hello, Bucksport, Maine. Nancy, good to see you. All right. So I didn't mean to get too dry. Anytime you guys have a question, topic, anything you want to talk about, put it in the comment section. I'll be glad to deal with what I can. I want to get back to my point. So you're in the Immortals book, a gentleman in Russia, he points out the fact that not 20 years from the revolution, millions of people were starving to death because they didn't understand that civilization is hard, that it's not perfect, that there are always going to be inequities. There are always and socialists and leftists and communists today love to point out the fact that rich people have yachts while some people don't have a car and have to work 3 jobs. That's bad. Your whole family and everybody you know and 29 million other people starving and their bodies piled up in the streets so that you can't even live, and you're being told not to eat your children is worse. I'm just saying it's worse. And it didn't just happen in Russia. Russia's not the only place in the world. It's happened all over the world, everywhere that philosophy has had enough time to come to fruition. All right. Chuck says, how many people in population does it take to carry about a revolution? A tiny, tiny number. The Bolsheviks were one of the smallest political parties in Russia prior to the revolution. For example, the USA, disclaimer, I'm not advocating that. Revolution is an interesting thing. First of all, there has to be conditions prevalent in the society that people finally come to the conclusion are not going to get better. All right. And that is what happened in France, and that's what happened in a lot of different places where there were revolutions. You can have a revolution, but if you don't have the ability to capitalize on a large enough mass of people who have dissatisfaction and have no hope, don't hope for anything better, then you're probably not going to be that successful. It would do well for you to study the difference between the 1905 revolution in Russia and the 1917 revolution. Like I said, it doesn't take very many people to carry out a revolution, but there has to be at some point the ability to communicate an idea, even if it's a bad idea, even if it's a horrible idea, but an idea that something that you have to offer is going to give people the promise of something better than what they think they're going to have. Now, you got to remember, in Russia in particular, even the poor, the serfs, the peasants, prior to right around the turn of the century, right around 1900, things had gotten worse for them. And every time they had gotten worse, the corrections that the government tried to make made things even worse. And so there had been a lot of progressive ideals that had been implanted that had made things worse. Early on, when the serfs were freed in the 1860s, serfs were able to buy property. They could buy their property that they had already been on and already been farming. People think of serfdom like they think of American slavery. It wasn't that way. Depending on where you were, a lot of people were raised on a farm. It was like they owned it in every sense, just like we think we own our land here. You still have to pay your property taxes and fees and all these other things that happen, but they were on that land for centuries. And when the serfs were freed, a lot of them weren't happy about it. A lot of them were, but it was trying to solve a problem. Now, again, serfdom in Russia was completely different than slavery. It was not based on race, and it was not based on man stealing. It was a system that had come about because of the hardships they had, being invaded all the time by all these different people. And it had persisted for a very long time, and for a lot of people, it worked. For the whole civilization, it worked. And freeing them caused other problems that could have been fixed. Had brighter heads prevailed, but they didn't. And so you ended up things getting worse. They got a more progressive solution. Things got worse, more progressive solution. Then you end up having something that's ripe for a revolution. People were becoming more and more urbanized. They were becoming more and more continuous war being necessary in order to keep people occupied. One of the things they did is they got rid of the what they called the kulak class, which was the yeoman farmer, the people that fed everyone, and that's what that's even in the notes there on the Immortals book. They got rid of the kulaks, which was the yeoman farmer, with the people who knew how to make food. That's what you get. These people that are trying in America that want to clear the decks, they want to reset, they want to have a socialist revolution in America. That's what they're thinking. They don't have centuries of yeoman farmers who are able to continue to produce food. We got rid of them a long time ago. There are still a few of us left, but the rest of it's done by industrial farming. And those people get wiped out in the revolutions. And then they bring in people that don't know anything, who are bureaucrats, and then a whole bunch of people starve to death. We're supposed to be looking for patterns. Genius, even today, what qualifies as genius? Pardon me. Genius is remarkably less. You should be able to see patterns in history. You should be able to see the way things are going and be able to make a determination on what's going on and where you fall. Regardless of where you are on the political spectrum, we can see where things are going. All right. As far as, perhaps some things that are, my mouse froze, some things that are perhaps coming along now because of the latest developments, which I don't want to get into too much yet. It sounds very much like Cambodia. It could get interesting. As I mentioned, when people begin to believe that their leaders are no longer, I want to be careful, that there is no hope, that there is no fixing it without and the solution that the people in power have is going to be worse than the way things are now. When they get to that point, when they no longer trust the courts, when they no longer trust federal law enforcement, when they no longer trust investigations, they no longer trust the people in power, when they realize that there's an institutional class who now controls everything, and it doesn't matter. So if you put it in a small town context, if you live in a small town and there's an institutional ruling class that does whatever they want, they can rape and pillage and murder, and the courts just wink at them and go, oh, and nobody gets punished. But the people who get punished are the people who are just trying to get by, people who are trying to do the right thing. When there's a hostility to religion, a hostility to right living, a hostility to anything historical, to civilization itself, people begin to begin to despair. They become despondent. And at that point, it doesn't take much. It doesn't take much for things to change rapidly. And I think that is something that we're going to have to keep an eye on. Everybody needs to realize here in the Bunker Nation, our goal is to get you to think and to thrive. And to do so, what we have to do is we have to look at every possibility. That's how we succeed. We think about these things. We use pattern recognition. We use history. We use a knowledge and an understanding of how things have happened in the past and how things are trending. And we try to look at every possible option and we plan accordingly. And that's kind of where we are right now. And where I've been telling you guys since March, you should be. It was never about a virus. It was never about any of that stuff. That doesn't mean it doesn't exist. I know it does because I caught it. I'm saying that there's a lot of things that are going on, and we need to keep our eyes open, make our plans, be wise, be loving as much as possible, and we need to continue to examine things and not put our heads in the sand. That's the best I can tell you. If you have any questions or comments or something you want to talk about, and if you're a future person, here's my invitation to you. Get down in the comments section. If you'd like to hear me answer a question, talk about a topic, or something like expound on something, just get in the comments section and let me know. I read all the comments. Glad to do it. I want to tell you again, in case you got in here late, we are at the beginning of the show at 1,947, I think, subscribers. We're trying to hit 2,000 by the end of the year. According to the YouTube people, 49% of you who are watching this or who will watch this are not subscribed. I sure would appreciate it if you would go down. If you're feeling generous, hit the subscribe button and hit the little bell icon. I do live videos, and then you'll know when I'm going live. And if you don't watch the videos, they stop telling you, even if you're subscribed. So we have a whole long history of watching civilization and empires crumble because rich kids think they can do it better, and they're not happy with the speed at which progress is being made. And that's just the way that it is. And that's I point these things out to you so that you have a mental checklist of where you are on the timeline. As a time traveler, that's the least I can do for you. All right, everybody, I'm going to wait for you. If you've got questions or comments, put them in the comment section. If not, we're going to call it quits. Mrs. Bunker is going to come down here, and we're going to watch, speaking of civilization, we're going to watch the next, we started the new season of The Crown. And so that's what we're probably going to watch tonight, provided I have enough power. Hopefully, if you didn't catch the beginning of the show, go back and watch it. We're going to have our power situation mostly manageable in the next 2 weeks. That is my squeaky chair. I have this old chair. We got it for $20 5 years ago or so. And I've been trying to get rid of it and get a new chair, but something always comes up. And it's really loud. I have sprayed gallons of WD-40 on it. There's nothing can be done. It's probably 50 years old. I found it at the Goodwill. I think in Fredericksburg, Bob. I'm famous for that chair, but I would like to get rid of it. All right, I'm not seeing any questions or comments come up other than what's the noise in the background. So if you have anything, let me know. We'll give it a few minutes. Sorry that I went through everything so fast today. I was just, things pop up. And I was wearing this black pullover kind of shirt. And if I had my black gaiter on and my black hat and I didn't have the slider, it looked like my head was floating in the black inky darkness. Sounds like a drinking goat. How would you know? You got goats there in Alaska, Ethan? Maybe you do. We got one goat. All right. You guys have any questions or comments, get them in. I appreciate all of you as always. I love you. I try to help as much as I can. Hey, I want to tell everybody I appreciate you guys. And I also want to tell you, if you want to support the program, if you want to support the Bunker Nation. Oh, by the way, some merch is coming. And some of you, I still have sweatshirts or pullovers. Pardon me. My allergies have been acting up, and I just had a water. We're going to get some merch coming in. I'm going to get the pullovers that I owe. I think two of you, some pullover, Bunker Nation pullovers. We're going to get some hats, some T-shirts, some that say embrace discomfort, which is our credo here. And so I appreciate all you guys. Go to michaelbunker.com. You can see it right over my shoulder, michaelbunker.com. And you can click on the little partner tab at the top. And you go down there to the Stripe thing, and it lets you do like a monthly subscription like Patreon. You can do like $5 a month, whatever you want to do. And that really does help because there's some fees involved with all of this. And it helps me boost up battery systems. And you guys know I'm off grid. And so we're trying to keep the power going. You're going to be dropping your push-up video. All right. Can't wait to see it. Nobody knows what you're talking about, but I do. Thank you, C.A. Barron. So go to YouTube, subscribe, everybody. Subscribe. We need to hit 2,000. You can share the videos too. If you're going to share it, tell people why they should subscribe. Don't just share it. They see some guy just sitting here yelling at the screen. You're like, why did he send me this? Tell them why. Tell them I'm right 99.6% of the time, and I actually do tell people what's going to happen before it happens. All right, everybody, God bless. I love you. Lord willing, I'll see you soon. I'm going to push up some more videos. Hopefully after the first day of the week next week, I'm going to push up some new how to think videos. You want to be looking for those. God bless you. Hit the like button. I'll talk to you later.